so much, everyone, for joining me tonight. I am super excited to chat with you all about Menstrual Cycle 101 so that you can actually learn about what is going on with your cycle. And after all of these years, a lot of people, just don't have the knowledge that they wish that they had. And the amount of times that whether it is with my one-on-one clients or whether it is on Instagram or TikTok or, all the different social media things that are around. And when I talk about particular things, it's just like a huge shock about the hormonal system. So I'm super excited to debunk some myths, teach you about your cycle, and just really go into all the ins and outs of things that you probably maybe haven't learned yet. So did you know that you actually need an extra 200 to 300 calories during your luteal phase? So this is the phase just before you get your period. So the last phase of your cycle. And usually we judge ourselves, we're like, why am I still hungry? Or why am I craving this food? And it's actually quite normal. So part of tonight is also going over things that are normal and things that are not normal that you need to get help for. Did you know that the pill does not balance your hormones or regulate your period? We will go into more of this. Did you know that you actually poop out your estrogen? That's a pretty funny one. My job is kind of based around talking about periods and poop, so I am a little bit desensitized to it. So we'll be talking a lot about that tonight. And did you know that about 90% of your serotonin is actually made in the gut? And your serotonin is what makes your melatonin, which is your sleep hormone. So all of these things are so interrelated. And when we can actually understand what's going on with it, we can put those dots together as to what's going on with our symptoms. So again, I've just let a few people in. If you're just logging on, if you can just open the chat function just down the bottom or up the top, it will say chat. And you can just type in, yes, I can hear you. Just let me know that everything is good. And we'll be using this chat function throughout the session. So do wait till the end because I do have a little gift for you for attending. Warning, I do get super excited about talking about hormones and sometimes I can speak really fast. So it's a really good thing for you to have a paper and pen or somewhere that you can take notes in this session. You're also welcome to take pictures of the screen because there's lots of really cool diagrams that I'll be showing you tonight. So feel free to do that as well. And of course, ask me questions in the chats, or if you're watching the replay, you can click in the comments as well, and I'll get back to those. Great, everyone can hear me good. That's perfect. So you can, again, just reminding any questions that you have that might be confidential, you can just direct message me. It doesn't have to go to everyone on the chat. And that's my cute dog. So there he is. So that's my dog, Cushy. He may run in at any time and disrupt us. There's also a big storm here tonight. I'm on the Sunshine Coast in Queensland. So hopefully everything stays good. So a little bit about me. If you don't know me, I am a naturopath and I've worked with thousands of people all over the world, helping them with their hormone imbalances of all different shapes and sizes. A big mission and value of my business is to provide education, which is why I'm committed to running these free workshops for our community so that you can actually learn about these things that are so important and that we really should have access to, that everyone should be able to have access to. He's also not that small and cute anymore. He's like 20 kilos now and a huge dog. So if you can type in the chat box, who feels like they learned nothing about their hormones or periods when they were a teenager? So type me in the chat box if that was you, because it totally was me. I feel like all I learned from school and hormones was if you have sex, you're either going to get pregnant or an STI. I feel like this is all that we learned. So people are saying, yep, learnt nothing. It's such a big one. So we're going to debunk some of these things tonight. So we're going to talk about misconceptions about hormones, how to understand your hormones, understanding a bit about birth control, and living with your cycle rather than against it. So first up, hormone sex ed. If you get this joke that I put in there, I hope you're giggling because I found it pretty funny. That's just always what I think about whenever I read out this, like who feels like they learned about nothing about hormones when they're a teen and you only get pregnant or an STI. Anyway, maybe that's like a very millennial type of meme from me. So first off, we need to understand where all of these hormones are actually coming from. So first off, we have the brain. This stimulates hormone messengers. So messages are sent from the brain to all of these different areas of the body. So thyroid, adrenals, ovaries. So what can happen here is that if one of these is out of balance, it's going to affect the whole lot, because it doesn't just go top to bottom. It's not just brain, thyroid, adrenals, ovaries. Your ovaries are talking to your thyroid. Your ovaries are talking to your adrenals. Adrenals are talking to ovaries. Brain is talking to adrenals. Everyone's talking to everyone. It's like this big gossip section in the body, and everything affects everything. So if there's one nutrient that is out of balance, say you're low in iron, this is going to affect all of these different pathways. Every type of nutrient, there's not one nutrient in the body that lives by itself and does everything. When these nutrients are in the body, they actually have to have other nutrients to be able to do the work. So for example, magnesium is important in over 300 different pathways and functions in the body. That's why, a lot of people are magnesium deficient because we deplete our magnesium from stress a lot of the time. So we'll talk about all of these as well along the way of what that is, but we'll mainly be focusing on ovarian hormones and adrenal hormones tonight. So let's discuss what your actual menstrual cycle is. So type in the chat if you feel like you need help understanding this diagram. Like, does this make sense? Have you seen this before? So write in the chat, yes, seen it before, or no, never seen it before. Would love to know how many people here know what's going on. So again, you can just direct message me. You don't have to message it to everyone in the chat box. So some people are opting to direct message me saying that no, they haven't seen it before. So that's interesting. That's good. That's good. Some have seen it before. Someone said beside my sessions with you. So this is a common one that I do pull up in my consults with clients, because I find that it's a really helpful one just to start to understand, to be able to see what's actually going on with your cycle. So let's start from the bottom. So day 1, so 0 days, and then it moves forward to the right, up to the 28 days, 30 days of your cycle. So day 1 of your cycle, of your menstrual cycle, is day 1 of your period. So a lot of people think that the period is like the end of the cycle, but it's actually the start. So day 1 of your cycle is day 1 of your period. And so as your period happens, your lining sheds. So this is like the lining of your uterus, uterine lining. And so that is shedding. As the days go on over the 28-day cycle, the lining starts to build up, and then at the period, it starts to shed again. So this is the cycle that happens over the 28 days. It can be normal. I would consider normal to be between 26 and 32 days for a cycle. So if you have a cycle that's shorter than 26 days or longer than 32 days, then I would be saying that there's probably some type of hormonal imbalance going on there. Because the reason why this is because our cycles are made up of different sections and different phases, which we'll be talking about. So when our cycles are too short, it means that somewhere along this line of these hormones, something is an imbalance. And if your cycle is too long, it's also the same. It means that one phase is going for too long than it should. So let's go up to the next one. So ovarian hormones. We have your estradiol, which is a type of estrogen. This is the main type of estrogen that we can test in the blood, and your progesterone. So your estrogen is really low. All hormones are low on your period. So when you say that you're feeling hormonal when you're on your period, you're not actually feeling an excess of hormones. It's actually really low hormones. So this is another misconception that I think we say, oh, I'm just feeling hormonal when I'm feeling emotional on my period. And, I feel like in my mind before I learned this, it was that my hormones were going like, whoa, like this. But it's actually that the hormones are really low during that time. So we don't have the support from the hormones to balance our mood. So as we move through our follicular phase, which is before our ovulation, that's when our estrogen starts to build up. So our estrogen is super important for things like our bone health and our mood and our energy. And as this is happening, we are growing our follicle. So the follicle grows to incorporate the egg, to encapsulate the egg, to help the egg to be ready for the ovulation. And then at ovulation, which is when these two hormones, luteinizing hormone and FSH, so this is what's helping the egg to actually be stimulated and to be released, that's when your estrogen drops off. So this is ovulation, egg being released. We're ready for the sperm to come in to actually help with the fertility. And when this happens, your progesterone starts to build. So the progesterone is what helps in that second phase of the cycle. So this is between ovulation, so between day 14 and day 28 to 30. So when our progesterone is rising, this should actually be making us feel really good. Our progesterone is our cool, calm, and collected hormone. It's our hormone that's supposed to be really nice for our skin, supposed to be nice for our hair, our energy, our mood, feeling really calm. But how do most people feel in the week or two before their period? So write in the chat how you normally feel. So I used to feel, before I started to do a lot of work on my hormones, I used to feel really moody. I would feel like irritable and angry and snappy. So write to me in the chat, what words would you describe? What words would you describe your mood or how you feel in the week before your period? Yeah, I used to feel really bloated. I used to get breakouts. I literally used to get all these breakouts here and on my back. It was just horrible. And that's because I had low progesterone. So my progesterone was not rising like this. So I'm seeing messages saying tired, bloated, irritable, angry, headaches. Really common to hear. Oh, really hungry. Yep, someone just said hungry. That is a big one too, which we will talk about why that actually happens. So progesterone is supposed to be rising as the lining starts to build up. Now, if the egg is not fertilized, I feel like that's the word I was looking for before. The egg is not fertilized, that's when the progesterone starts to drop off, and that's when the lining drops off. So if the fertilization from the sperm doesn't happen, that's when you have a period. So we'll talk more about fertile times and everything too, so that you can get to know about cycle tracking for knowing what your fertility is, whether that is for avoiding conception or for conception, or just for general knowledge. Like I love to know when I'm ovulating, because it helps me to figure out how I'm going to be feeling, which is what I'll explain shortly. Next thing is that your body temperature actually rises at ovulation. So see right here, ovulation, estrogen's dropping, these two are rising, and temperature rises. So we'll talk about why I think that this is actually one of the most efficient and useful and cost-effective ways of tracking your cycle. I'll explain that to you later as well. But see how much of a jump that it is. You can really notice the changes. I'll show you some graphs next of what the body temperature changes actually look like. So really what we need to be looking at in these menstrual cycle changes is what's going on here with this estrogen and progesterone. So remember also that even though this graph is saying that ovulation happens at day 14, apparently something like only 15% of people ovulate on day 14. So I usually ovulate on day 13. Mine's a little bit earlier. I have clients who ovulate on day 19, so that's a lot later. They have a bit of a longer cycle. So yeah, let me know in the chat if you know what day of your cycle you ovulate, if you have started to track it yet, or if you haven't started to track it yet but you're interested. I would also love to know that. So we're going to move on to learning about the different phases of your menstrual cycle. I'll be coming back to this chart frequently, because it is an important one to direct back to. So did you know that you're literally different every day of your cycle? So every day of our cycle, our hormones are changing. So see, every single day, estrogen's getting higher, then it's dropping, then progesterone's getting higher, dropping. Every single day, we are experiencing different hormone cycles. So female hormone cycle runs on a 28-day cycle, unlike males who run on a 24-hour circadian hormone cycle. So we actually run on completely different cycles. And this is why, our daily lives are built around 24-hour cycles. We go to work, 9 to 5, blah, blah, blah. It's all tied in with the 24-hour cycle. Whereas I don't know about you, but on particular days, especially when I'm on my period, I'm just like, I don't feel like doing anything. I feel like chilling out in bed, maybe with a hot water bottle on Netflix. I guess it's not, we can't always just do that if we have a full-time job and we have to go to work. But these things are good to understand so that you can look after yourself better. So rather than hating your period, thinking that it sucks, thinking that, we just got to push through and I'm still going to go out to that party and, I'm going to feel so tired the next day. So understanding what your cycle is, and rather than thinking of it as a burden, is really what I want to get across to you tonight. And yeah, just knowing this, and also being able to talk to any males in your life, whether it's your partner, whether it's, a close work colleague, someone like that, who, if you can understand that, yeah, we don't work in a 24-hour cycle, we work in a 28-day cycle. I even have I actually did. I will post a link also to my podcast, because I do have a podcast and I have a whole episode on this, specifically about the phases of your menstrual cycle. If you would be interested in learning more and more about this, because it just goes into so much depth. But I'll talk about what we really need to be doing for different phases of the cycle. Yeah, and that's what I was going to say. One of my good friends who I interviewed on there, who she does a lot of women's circles and these types of things, so that people can come together and talk about their hormones in an open forum type of thing. And she has little kids, and she was saying that she talks to her little kids about what phases of her cycle that she's in, so that they're aware of it as well. Like, this time mommy might need this time, I just think that it's so awesome. And also teaching younger generations to be able to understand all of this as well. So this is the phases of your menstrual cycle. So a lot of people think that menstrual cycle is just your period. Put a yes in the chat if you have ever thought that. Like, I definitely thought that before I became a naturopath, before I started reading into all of this. I thought that it was just you're on your period or you're not, and nothing else really matters apart from getting my period. So we are different people. Yeah, you thought that too, Laura. Awesome. Yeah, it's good to know. It's good to know, like, it's good to reflect on these things as well, because when I reflect on it, I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm a super hormone nerd now, so I study this stuff every day. Like, every day I'm watching something new and doing some new course and whatever, all these things. But I kind of forget like how far that we've come. And when I see my clients, being able to track their cycle and report back and talk about it, it's just so awesome. So we're going to start first off with day 1 of the cycle, which is the menstruation. So this is when you have your period, and I like to talk about the different phases of your cycle as the seasons of the year. So winter season is your menstruation. So this is like hibernation mode. So what do we do in winter? We're usually eating warming foods, we're hibernating, we're not really doing that much exercise. Our hormones are low. Remember, our hormones are low here. Hormones, they're all low, all of them. So we're not going to feel energized. The worst thing that you could do when you're on your period is to go to a HIIT class, those 45-minute classes. You know what I'm talking about. Worst thing, don't try and go for a 10-kilometer run and push through it. This is the time to be doing restful exercises, whether it is stretching, gentle yoga, yin yoga, gentle Pilates class. I love Pilates, but some of those Pilates classes are intense. Like those reformer ones where it's like athletic and you've got the board and you're like jumping, and oh my gosh, it is so full on. So save that for a later time. But in our winter, when our hormones are low, so this is, even if you have a 3-day bleed, I would still recommend to count it as the 6 days. So day 1 to 6, still keep it gentle, because the hormones are still quite low at that time, even if you aren't bleeding anymore. So if you can write in your chat, I would love to know. You can direct message me. How many days does your bleed usually go for? So do we have any heavy bleeders here? Like if you're 6 days plus or more than 3 days of heavy bleeding within that 6 days, I'd love to know. Or if you have a really light period. I've gone through times in my life where I only bleed for 1 day. And then I just have a bit of spotting on either side. So yeah, I'd love to know. Love to know what your period is like. So when we have the when we have that winter phase, we need to think of it, like we're in our cave. So we're going into our cave and we're needing to hibernate. Think of it hibernation mode. But we also need to differentiate what is normal and what is not normal. So as we go into our period, okay, I've seen some messages. So 5 days of bleeding, only 2 heavy days. Cool. That sounds pretty good. Just depends how heavy it is, because, I would say that if you're having to change your tampon, I wrote here somewhere, if you're having to change your tampon more than 3 times a day, I would consider that quite heavy. Depends what you use. Sometimes, using the period undies can be a little bit difficult, but I do still recommend them. I think that they're a really good low tox option. PS, always use organic tampons and pads, please. Cotton is the most heavily pesticide sprayed crop. So please use the organic ones. It really does make a huge difference. So when we're looking at what is normal and what is not normal when you're on your period, I find that these are just huge misconceptions. So period pain is actually not normal. So these are the things not normal, needs investigating. So period pain that prevents you from doing, that's meant to say things, period pain that prevents you from doing things, or needs pain meds. So if you're having to take Panadol, ibuprofen, naproxenic, these types of things, that is too much pain. I would say that feeling a heavy, uncomfortable feeling on your period can be normal. So if you feel like, for me, I usually feel like, okay, I just need to have a little hot water bottle on me today. Have my period undies on or cup, whatever I'm using, and not be doing exercise. I'll go for gentle walks and I'll do some stretches, but having that kind of heavy feeling is okay. But if there is pain and cramping, this is not normal. And I feel like it just is such a misconception that people experience the period pain, and it just shouldn't be that way, because the period pain really needs to get investigated as to whether it's an estrogen issue, if there's endometriosis, what's going on. If there's clots in the blood, this is also not normal. You can have teeny tiny specks of the clots, but if anything is like as big as a 5-cent piece or bigger, that is too big for the clots and can also be a sign that the estrogen might be too high. If you're noticing roller coaster mood changes, so if you're noticing real ups and downs where you're like crying at ads on TV and then like snapping at your partner or your kids the next minute, this is definitely showing us that there's something going on with those hormones. And like I said before, when we're looking at that graph, if your progesterone is not high enough, that can really cause those mood changes, those mood ups and downs even. So really need to look into the progesterone, really need to look into that. I'll talk about testing later. I have a big list for you closer to the end of all of the tests that I would recommend that you get done. So you can take a picture of that, screenshot it, and get those done. So yeah, we'll talk about that later. Next, migraines and headaches, not normal. So if you get big migraines before your bleed, not normal, needs to be investigated. Also, if you're on the pill or Mirena and you're getting migraines, this really needs to be investigated, because that can be a big sign of that the pill is not right for you. Spoke about that, the heavy flow, painful and swollen breasts. This is a really common one that I hear that people think is normal. This is something I used to experience, and a really big one for this is definitely the low progesterone can be a problem, but also low iodine can be a problem. So low iodine is a really common one. I'm just going to write that down in the chat for you, because the low iodine really needs to be checked, because our Usually we should be getting our iodine from our soil, but because our soil is so overfarmed, there's not many nutrients in there, and no one eats enough fish or seaweed in their diet, apart from like the random sushi that you might have. And this can really cause those painful and swollen breasts. So really need to look out for that. And then any spotting that's not on your period. So if you're getting spotting during the month at random times, this needs to be investigated, because it could also be to do with that imbalance between the estrogen and progesterone as well. So normal things that happen on the period and that needs us to be understanding. So just notice how I worded that, because we can't expect, as females with the menstrual cycle, we can't expect our body to be exactly the same every single day, because as I said before, our hormones are changing every day. So we can't expect, it's like unrealistic expectations for us to expect our body to be able to go and do 45-minute HIIT workout classes every single day. It's actually not what our body wants, and it's actually not how we can get the best results from our body either. So I'll talk more about that when I talk about these different phases of the cycle. On normal on your period, having some food cravings / not feeling full after a normal meal. So this is where we need to discern and walk that fine line between, okay, maybe eating a whole block of chocolate to yourself, that's maybe not the best choice. It might not feel the best, 30 minutes after. It feels great when you're doing it, but maybe not 30 minutes after. But the food cravings can be. So again, like I said, we do need about 200 to 300 more calories in the week before your period. And same on your period, you need more calories as well. You can also not feel overly social in this time. Remember, it's hibernation mode. So don't try and push yourself. Like if I'm on my period and there's an event on, I'll just tell the people around me like, hey, I'm probably not going to stay late tonight. And just set up that expectation rather than feeling the pressure to have to do 1,000 things. You can be more sensitive with your emotions, but it shouldn't be to the extent of roller coaster emotions that are causing issues with your relationships or families or friends. Feeling a little bit sensitive, needing some more cuddles, that type of thing, totally normal. Some spotting before and after the bleed. So what I find is normal is 1 day of spotting, then the bleed, and then sometimes you can have that little bit of spotting at the end as well. And again, we're in hibernation mode, so we're going to have lower energy as well. How does that feel? If you can write in the chat, if that feels nice to know that we're allowed to have a bit of wiggle room when we're on our period. I just find that it can be nice to have the clarity around, feeling like you don't have to push yourself so much. So let me know if that feels good for you. Like if doing these things on the right-hand side, if you think that that's going to feel a little bit better by being more gentle with yourself. Just write yes in the chat to me if that feels good. Or if you've got lots of those things on the left-hand side, let me know if you're ticking off a lot of those things around your period. Yeah, I used to tick off roller coaster moods, migraines, painful swollen breasts, spotting. I used to get all of those things. And then I found out that I had low progesterone and the high estrogen going on. Low iodine I had as well. Cool. Let's go on to the next phase of the cycle. So spring, which is your follicular phase. So go back to the hormones. So this is this section here. So from day 6, which is when your period finishes, until your ovulation period, ovulation cycle, ovulation phase even. So this little section here, so this is when estrogen is rising. Estrogen is rising. We are in our spring phase. So this is like we are starting to bloom. So this is actually the best time for you to be doing those types of strength training. So in our spring phase, that's when we're actually the strongest, because they've done studies that have shown that people can hit better PBs, especially with strength training, in your follicular phase compared to any other time of the month. So that surge of the estrogen can really help with your energy. You should be feeling the most energy at this time of the month. You can be eating more lighter foods at this time of the month. So this is the spring, day 7 to 13. Approximately, you know, for me, I ovulate on day 13. So mine is a little bit shorter than this, fortunately. And so in the follicular phase, we should be feeling more energized, mood should be good. You know how it's kind of like when you finish your period and then you're just like, oh, great, now I can just do all of the things. Does anyone else feel like that? Type yes in the chat if you do, if you feel like when you finish your period. Yes, okay, I'm getting lots of yeses. Awesome. Yeah, so this is a really good time. In your menstruation, in your winter, it's actually a really good time to be writing lists. So write lists about what you want to be doing in spring. And this is a really good time to be actioning all of those things when you get to spring. So winter, you don't really want to be starting big conversations with your partner about something. You don't really want to be starting, you know, all of these big conversations. You want to be writing the list, journaling, keeping it internal for now. And then in spring, when you feel like your hormones are starting to rise, you're feeling better, that's when we can actually start to bring those things up and start to talk about them. Yeah, then we're moving on to ovulation, which is really the best time. So ovulation is when a lot of our hormones are starting to rise, specifically LH and FSH. Our estrogen's dropping off, progesterone starting to rise. So this goes from approximately here to here-ish, around about that. And at that ovulation time, when our body is releasing the egg, our body temp is going up a little bit. And this is the actual best time for your energy, specifically for your libido, for your stamina, for your drive. This is the time where we can be doing all the things. So this is when we can really be actioning the to-do list. We can be going out and being social. It's a really good time, you know, if you need to go shopping for clothes and all of these things. It's generally the best time the time that we feel best in our body. I don't know about you, but I also feel like that when I'm on my period, I'm just like, oh, I just want to wear like, my body doesn't actually look different. It's just how I feel. And as soon as my period finishes, I'm like, great, now I feel nice in my clothes. And I feel like I can, you know, wear the tight things or wear whatever I want. It's just such a funny thing. Like I still notice it even now, even when I, you know, have done lots of work on my hormones. So I just feel like it's a natural thing, which is okay. So the ovulation is also when you'll be having really deep sleeps, because this is when you're making a lot of serotonin, which converts into your melatonin. So this is a really nice time as well for the sleep and energy cycles to be reset. So next we have the autumn phase, which is the luteal phase. And this is really, it's the longest phase out of all of them. And this is really when our estrogen is lowering, still lowering, and our progesterone is starting, it should be at its peak at this time, and then it will start to lower. So this is when we should be starting to wind things down, not doing those super high intensity exercises like we can do at the start of the month, and just starting to tone it down a bit. So around about day 21 is usually when I like to get hormone testing done. So that is in this phase. So when you're in that luteal autumn phase, that's when I recommend to get hormone testing done. If you can write in the chat if you have had hormone testing done, type yes if you've had hormone testing done, or type know if you want to, if you're interested in knowing more about hormone testing, because I'd love to know. And that way, when I send you some notes tomorrow after this session, I can include info about, what I would recommend for hormone testing. So day 21 is the best time to get your hormone testing done. And I'm going to run through with you more towards the end, a big list of all of the hormones I would recommend that you get checked. So this is really because your progesterone is the main one that we want to check. See how here, if you get your progesterone checked at any other time of the day, any other time of the month, before day 21, really we're not really seeing what the progesterone will be doing. So day 21 is the best. That way we can get estrogen. We can still see what that's doing. That's not totally zero. But we can also see what your progesterone is doing, which is just such an important one. So your autumn phase is when we need to be going back into more of those gentle exercises, Pilates, yoga, walking, these types of things, not shooting for the PBs, not trying to do, big runs and trying to beat your PBs and your running as well. We really want to keep it low key. In this phase, remember, this is where we start to need to increase our food. So that's where we start to increase our calorie intake. So you can be having maybe a couple more snacks. Increasing the amount that's on your plate as well can be a really nice idea, and eating all cooked foods. So remember, thinking about this literally as the seasons, and in autumn it's starting to cool down. We're really needing to go into those warming foods. So soups, cooked veggies, always cooked veggies anyway. But in these cycles, we can eat a bit lighter. But around this time, autumn and winter, we really want to be having more warming foods, which can be really, really helpful for the digestion as well. Because remember, we poop out our estrogen. So when our estrogen needs to be removed from the body, which is every single day, but specifically in that time here, when our estrogen and our progesterone is starting to decrease as we're moving into our period, or into our winter phase, really, in this section, that's when we need to really be supporting our estrogen. So cooked food is always going to support your digestion more than raw food. So I would always opt for that when you're looking at this, this type of thing. Does that make sense? Type a yes to me if that helps you. Have you ever heard of the cycles of your menstrual phase put into seasons before? I'd be interested to know. I love thinking about it like that, because it's literally thinking about it in such a interesting way as to how the phases of our cycle work. So if you can incorporate this part in with what's actually going on with the hormones there, can be really helpful. Yes, getting messages saying, yes, love it. Awesome. Sounds good. So you spoke about that. Cool. And okay, when we are looking at the birth control pill, I will just run through this quickly because I know we all are not on that, / we're all not exactly all interested in it, but just want to run it through. So the pill does not regulate your cycle. The pill actually shuts down your ovulation. So that means that we're not producing any hormones. Our body is not producing the hormones. The pill is not natural hormones, it's synthetic. And the pill changes the sebum levels on your skin, which is why a lot of people, when they stop the pill, they get post-pill acne, no matter what their age. So that's a really big one that I help people with in my clinic, is post-pill acne and post-pill PCOS, which is when you don't start to ovulate again after you stop taking the pill. So there's obviously lots of side effects coming from the pill. If you felt like your mood is not great when you're on the pill. Researchers found that hormonal contraceptions were 50% more likely to be diagnosed with depression 6 months later compared to those who do not take hormonal contraceptions. 50% is a really big percentage. This is something that I went through in my own health journey, which is why I am really, I just find it so important for people to know these things before they start it, or if they are taking it already and they haven't been told about that before. And that's true with the Mirena as well. So the Mirena is the IUD, hormonal IUD, though different to the copper one. This is what the birth control pill is doing to your hormones. So, we've spoken all about these beautiful hormone changes, which you're all experts in now. And the pill actually stops the production of those hormones. So definitely stops the FSH and LH. There's tiny little surges here. So see, this is going up to like 25, but really we need those hormones going up to like 250. So it's pretty much nothing that you're getting when you're on those hormones. Plus it's a synthetic type of progesterone. So it's not even doing all those beautiful beneficial things that natural progesterone does. So what I recommend, if you want to be able to track your cycle, but you don't want to be on the birth control, this is what I recommend. It's what I use and what I recommend to a lot of my clients. So you can see here, it's literally a basal body temperature tracker, but it tracks it overnight. So you just wear it on your arm. You don't have to worry about taking your temp in the morning. And this is what's going to tell us and give us that graph. Because remember how when I told you here that when you ovulate, your temperature rises. So that's how we can track the ovulation, to actually see that temperature rise. And you are fertile for the 5 days before the ovulation, because the sperm can live in that area for about 5 days. So if we are, so say you have sex 5 days before the ovulation, that can still be your fertile time. If you have sex 1 day after the ovulation, probably not going to happen, / 2 days after, because we just want to be safe. So really you can only be fertile for about 5 or 6 days of the cycle. And if we know when that is by working out these temperature tracking, so you can see how much it changes. So this is showing that the ovulation happened around this day 14 or 15. So after that, temperature rises. So this is the chart of what the chart looks like. We won't go into cervical mucus tracking today, but that is something also that you can track and that you can just start to look at now. So your cervical mucus will change at different parts of your cycle. You'll notice that more around here, around your fertile time, will look like egg white. And then afterwards, it will be quite dry. Beforehand, it will be quite sticky or creamy. It can be like a white kind of color. So the temperature tracking is super important. I just find this really easy. Like if you do shift work, if you have little kids that are waking you up, or like a snoring husband, this is a really great tool to be able to do it, because you don't have to be distracted or interrupted or forget to do it in the morning when you wake up. And so that, just like every other bloody brand in the world, I don't know if everyone's getting like 1,000 Black Friday sales, but they are doing a sale which is really cool. And so it's $30 off plus extra 10% if you'd like to use that code as well. Take a picture of that if you'd like to get one. I think it's ending at the end of November, so whenever that is, like a couple of days time or something. Yeah, I find it super helpful, super helpful. List of hormones and nutrients to get tested. So things that I recommend, obviously the estrogen, progesterone, LH and FSH, because these are all of the ones that we looked at on the hormone chart at the start. Now, we haven't talked about the rest of them though. So I am going to, we talked about iodine. This is a urine test. So I highly recommend for you to get that one done. Free testosterone is really important to look at. If you're someone who gets skin breakouts, if you're someone who has excess hair growth, so whether it's like around the sides of your face, on your chin, around the nipple, sometimes around the inside of your thighs, this can happen. Your testosterone is really important to get checked. But remember, it has to be free testosterone because there's two different types. You can get normal testosterone checked, and then you can get free testosterone checked. So free testosterone is really important to get checked because this is the testosterone that's literally free. That's what it means. It means that it's free. It's freely running around in the body causing a ruckus. And so this can cause problems with mood changes, hair growth, like I said, ovulation issues. The acne is a big one, back acne, chest acne, and the jawline acne is a really big one. SHBG, this is called sex hormone binding globulin. Sex hormone binding globulin is something that can be elevated if you're coming off the pill or off the Mirena, are really common ones, or the Implanon, the rod. The SHBG can be high. This is a problem because that is what it does. Sex hormone binding, it means that it binds up to your sex hormones, binds up to your progesterone or your estrogen, which is not a good thing because we want lots of progesterone and lots of estrogen at the right times in the body. So this is a really important one to get checked. It's similar symptoms to what happens with the testosterone. So if you get back acne, jawline acne, chin, around the mouth, that type of area, this is one that I would always check. Next, insulin. If you have PCOS or suspected have PCOS, insulin is really important, and any of those symptoms with the testosterone problems. So if you have high testosterone, but you have not had your insulin checked, fasting insulin, this is a really important one. Because if you have high fasting insulin, this can cause the issues with the testosterone and the SHBG. So getting your fasting insulin checked is really important. A lot of people think that that's just for diabetics, but it's so important for the hormones because your insulin is like top of the pyramid. Insulin, top of the pyramid, and then all the other hormones flow on from that. So just like how, if you're someone who gets hangry, like you haven't eaten in a while, or you get home from work and you just like inhale the fridge and like blast everyone out of your way on your way there out of the car, this could really be showing that there could be some problems with your insulin. So really, really get that checked. Getting your fasting glucose checked is not enough. It's still a good one to get checked, but you really need to get the insulin checked at the same time. Super important, if I haven't reiterated that enough. Nutrients like your zinc, your iron, your B12, and your copper are all super important to get checked because we need, especially with the zinc is one that helps your thyroid to work properly, helps your progesterone to work properly. So if you're low in zinc or iron, this is going to have an impact on all of those other hormones going on in the body. And if you have high copper, it's like the copper and the zinc sit on a little seesaw together. High copper means low zinc. So if you know you have low zinc and you're supplementing with zinc and we haven't ruled out that there's high copper, this could be a problem as well. So if there's any inkling that I get that you might have high copper, we'll always get that checked. But yeah, if you've been supplementing for years with zinc and your zinc is not going up, this could be a reason why. If you don't eat red meat at least 3 or 4 times a week, then you have a chance of being iron and B12 deficient. So that's a really important one as well. You can get iron from plant sources, but it's really hard to get iron from plant sources. Yes, it will say on Google that you can get X amount of iron from spinach, but that iron is different to the iron that you get from red meat. The iron is in a non-absorbable form, not a very good absorbable form. So your body has a really hard time absorbing it and utilizing it. So remember to always get iron studies done, not just your iron. So you need to make sure that you get your ferritin checked, which is your stores of your iron. Super important one. And then we need to look at thyroid function, urinary iodine, and vitamin D. So thyroid function, need to make sure that you get, I'm just going to type this in the chat. So TSH, T3, and T4 needs to be done. If you are only getting TSH checked, this is not enough. I have a podcast episode coming up soon, probably in about 2 weeks' time, all about thyroid with one of my good friends who's a naturopath also that specializes in thyroid, and she's had thyroid cancer herself and had her thyroid removed. So it's a really good one to listen to. Excuse me. Iodine is essential for your thyroid function, so really important one. And your vitamin D. Did you know that vitamin D is actually a hormone? So vitamin D is essential for you to be either getting naturally, you really want your vitamin D to be over 100, or it's just going to be way too low. Most people that I see sit around like 30 or 40, even in Queensland when we have sun, like I'm like sweating because it's so hot today because it was so sunny. Write down any questions you have for me. Please write them down because we're going to do questions soon. Start writing them in the chat for me so I can start to answer them. Cool. So now you might have connected with a lot of these things that I've been thinking about. So now is, really the time to make the change. So I'm wondering, what your plans are. Like, where do you see yourself in the next 6 months with your hormones? Are you ready to get the testing done? Are you ready to get some treatment happening? You know, what's actually going on there? Thank you to everyone sending me direct message with questions. We will get to that. Please send them through. So what I'm offering you today is to get my Heal Your Hormones online program with some extras. So these are all of the things that it covers. It's an 8-week online program, and I'm including all of these resources for free, which is $105 off, which is pretty cool. So I'm just going to pop the link in there for you if you are interested in knowing more about that offering. Please jump on and have a look at that. So we do cover a lot more depth. You know, we can only cover so much in like an hour and 15 of what we're doing tonight, but we really go over really in depth of things to eat, like specific things to eat, all of my food guides and recipe books, going over, you know, how to read your own blood tests as well. We talk about that a lot. So when you've got your bloods, then you can read them yourself. Talking about your adrenal glands, stress response, fight or flight response, how anxiety plays in with your hormones, how your sleep issues play in with your hormones, how your estrogen, progesterone, testosterone can be balanced, how to eat to support those hormones, what to do with your gut and hormone connection, how to get gut testing done, gut healing foods. This is really, really important. Week 7, we go over environmental endocrine disruptors, so how to swap your personal products over to hormone-friendly ones, and you get all of my ebooks included in this as well, which has brands and everything that I like for you to do. Exercise and hormones, putting it all together, helping you to read your bloods, going over all of that. So would love for you to check that out. I've popped that link in the chat, so have a look at that, see what you think, message me afterwards with any questions that you have about that. You can start it at any time, but this bonus is just until the 15th of December. So if you'd like to join, then you'll get all of that included, which is really cool. Get great results on this on this program. So, if you're feeling like you're ready to dive in, but maybe not to dive into one-on-one treatment, this is like a DIY. I'm still there to answer questions for you as you need, but it's more of like a DIY. You get to work on it every week, get to have worksheets, get to get all of those things happening. So many resources. So you can book a free discovery call with me if you would like to start to work with me at all, or if you'd like to chat about the program, the Heal Your Hormones program. You can also jump on a call with me. Be happy to chat to you about that. That's the link there that I just posted, free discovery call, if you would like to book that in. And yeah, check out my podcast as well, Conscious Health and Life podcast. How cute is that picture of Cushy? I just can't deal with him. Let's do some questions. So we've got, how do you get your thyroid tested? So this is through blood testing. You need to get those hormones tested, TSH, T3, T4. Also, your thyroid antibodies are really important ones. Zinc, selenium, iodine are also really important. So if you've had your thyroid checked and everything is fine, I swear if I had $1 for that, I would be living in the Maldives. It's honestly so often. And if the only thyroid test you've had done is your TSH, that is just really not enough. So check out my podcast. It's coming out in a couple of weeks with the thyroid episode. Would love for you to listen to that one. What advice do you have for estrogen clearance if you have excess estrogen, and also how to raise progesterone? Good question, because this is actually the most common hormone profile imbalance that I see. So the estrogen excess usually happens because the estrogen is not clearing well enough. How does estrogen get cleared out of the body? Via your stool, and your liver has to process it as well. So really commonly I see people who have excess estrogen to actually have constipation as well, and usually too much toxin load. So whether it's some type of job that you're in, maybe too much exposure to chemicals or plastics, or maybe in the past, even if you grew up in different farming areas, these types of things with pesticides, that can have a really big impact. Fiber, brassica vegetables, psyllium husk, all of these things can be really important for clearing the estrogen. Different herbs that we can use, definitely. Broccoli sprouts are amazing. Alfalfa sprouts are amazing for food as medicine. I love using those. And we can use herbs. So specific herbal combinations that I like is using things like licorice, peony, liver supporting ones like St. Mary's thistle, schisandra. They're all really beautiful for estrogen clearance. But nutrients are really where it's at, and using your food as medicine, and using your gut health as medicine as well. So making sure that you have good probiotics happening, good fermented foods happening, making sure that your body is, really getting supported with clearing out that excess. Because if you aren't going to the toilet every day, so going at least one time a day for number 2, your body is going to start recycling that estrogen that's sitting there in the gut. So super important for that. Usually when we start to clear the estrogen, the progesterone will naturally start to rise, but there are some really nice herbs I like to use for progesterone. So specifically using things like Vitex can be a really good one, and peony is also a really nice one. In terms of nutrients, we need to look at zinc specifically for the progesterone, and your B vitamins. So specifically B6 and zinc can be a nice combination. And you also really need to look at your stress levels, because half of your progesterone is made in your adrenal glands, which is where your cortisol is made. So if you're overproducing cortisol, you're going to be underproducing progesterone. Does that help? I hope that helped with the thyroid one and with the estrogen clearance one. another direct message just asking about the program. So she's asking, let me read it. So can you start the program at any time, and how long does it usually take per week? So yeah, you can start it at any time. You can sign up today and get started tomorrow. The sale is on until the 15th, but it's always open for enrollment. So I have people enrolling every week into this program and getting started. It's all drip fed, so each week you get your new modules open. I would probably recommend at least an hour and a half a week to be able to dedicate to it, so that you can watch the videos. There's videos of me speaking, and then there's worksheets for you to do as well. So there's lots of things for you to be constantly doing, plus, working through your food, working through your lifestyle. So yeah, it takes about 8 weeks to do, but you have lifetime access, so you can always go back again. I really recommend going back, a couple of months later and reading through everything again, or, printing it all out or saving it on your computer for those times. So yeah, good question. More questions, just keep sending them through if you like. So another question was about the testing. So how do you do hormone testing? I live in New South Wales. Okay, so any hormone testing that I do, we can do it worldwide. So no matter where you are, we can do hormone testing. So it depends on what you need. For example, if you need your insulin checked and your SHBG and testosterone checked, we would always do bloods. If you have a history of breast cancer in your family, other types of estrogenic issues, we would be doing urine testing for the hormone. So it really depends on yourself and what is best for you, what's going on for you even. So yeah, would love to help you with the hormone testing. Thanks, Sarah. One of the girls just said she's listening in from the UK, has to go off to work. Must have got up early to listen. Love that. So yeah, if you're interested in hormone testing, send me a message. Yeah, really, really love to hear all these questions. Thank you for sending those through. If you do have anything else that you want to ask me, feel free to flick me a message on Instagram, on Facebook, TikTok, my email, anything. I'll just type my email there for you in case you want to send me a message. Just copy and paste that. hello@ellenlouisenaturopath.com. Send me an email, let me know how I can help. And yeah, it was really great to go over everything with you tonight. I hope that you learned some things. And I hope that you, stay in contact. I'm doing, next week, we're doing a fertility webinar. So next week, we're talking all about specifically fertility, foods for fertility, tracking your cycle for fertility. So if that interests you as well, come along. It's completely free. If there's anyone else in your life that you feel like would benefit from it, who's going through their fertility journey or starting to think about fertility or having problems with fertility, it's a really great one to join. So yeah, again, thank you so much for listening, and have a lovely evening. I will see you soon. Bye-bye.